Hello everybody, this is Shannon with Beads and Babble. I am back with another tutorial, but before we start I'd like to give a heartfelt shout out to some lovely ladies that left me comments. Pamela, Angelica, Susan, Evelyn, Kimberly, Catherine, Ruby Girl Jules, Season Faye Woman. I greatly appreciate the encouragement and the super nice comments. At first I was a little worried because I wasn't getting any comments, so I wasn't sure if the content I was providing was something that interested people, but I really appreciate the feedback and it let me know that the channel is right on track. So thank you so very much, ladies. I couldn't thank you enough, to be honest. It made my day. So I will get now onto the tutorial, which is Valentine inspired, since we're coming up on that particular special day. The elements that we'll be learning to make will be some links and a toggle class that you can combine together to make several pieces of jewelry you can gift or wear it yourself or sell it. So I will get on with the materials and tools that we'll be working with today. You'll need a ruler in order to cut the metal to the length that you're going to need. You're going to use a chasing hammer metal with a round domed head. And the difference between this one and the flat dome is the flat is more for striking other tools like stamps for impressioning on metal or setting cabochons and such like that. This one is more for moving metal, texturing metal, and such like that. And when you hold a chasing hammer, you do not want to hold it close to the head. You have very little control there. You'll want to come down all the way and hold it firmly in your grip when you're striking. And it's a lot more comfortable. I'm going to place the tools over to the side as I'm listing them here. This is a nylon mallet. It's got a good bit of weight to it, and it's designed to not mar your metal. So it's great for flattening out pieces of metal that were distorted all without leaving any marks, in case you don't want to give your metal any texture or anything. Some of these tools we may or may not use, but I usually like to pull out what I think that I might be using rather than having to go hunt for it later on. You will need either an emery board or a file. This is a number 2 needle file, which is kind of the go-to file for if you're going to buy a file. A number 2 cut is great, kind of a general use file. You'll need this for taking off sharp edges and burrs that cutting and working with the metal might leave behind. You'll need a steel blanch block, which is kind of a necessary tool if you're going to be working with metal. And then I have this nylon kind of puck shaped thing. This is also for holding metal. If it's too small and you don't want to injure your fingers, and you can put the down and hammer it with the chasing hammer or the mallet, the nylon mallet, to harden it or straighten it. Put this over here. You're going to need some sort of graduating bell making plier that has, this one goes from 2 millimeter all the way to 8 millimeter. I love these pliers. I use them a lot. Great investment if you're going. They're also really handy for making jump rings, all kinds of stuff. Endless uses for those. You're going to need a fine tip round nose plier. This is for closing up the loops. Flat nose, general flat nose, and a chain nose plier. Some flush cutters for cutting your metal, a Sharpie or a permanent pin just for marking where you're going to be cutting or bending the metal. You're going to need some 16 gauge wire for constructing the elements that we are going to do or findings that we are going to be making today. And this is 20 gauge wire. I am not going to be using this, but this is what the ear wires are made of. And I have a video on this channel showing you how to make these standard ear wires. And I use 20 gauge dead soft, which I teach you how to harden it to where you have the good spring that you need to retain its shape. But I'm not going to show you in this video since I already have one about it, but you will need that size to make them. And this size also, actually, I am going to use this for attaching the crystals to the, making some jump rings out of it. See, I'm lost in what I'm doing today. It's Sunday, right? It's the day of relaxation and regrouping for and getting ready for the new week. Okay, so, and you're also going to need some 6/0 seed beads. These are not necessarily needed, but I did use them, so I have them here. And then I also picked a couple of crystals for the earrings. So when we're making those, I will show you what those are going to be used for. See if I can come in a little bit closer now that we're going to start this. You guys can get a good view of exactly what I'm doing here. Go. So we're going to start out with making the heart portion of a toggle clasp. Looks just like this. I made several, which I tend to do, so I have them ready for when I'm going to be making any piece of jewelry. So you can use these for closing off bracelets, necklaces. You can also just use the actual heart part for a connector as well. So we're going to start off with making the heart toggle. And we're going to grab the flush cutters and we're going to cut a flush in on this spool of 16 gauge dead soft wire. Bringing in the ruler. We are going to measure out 4 inches approximately. Cutting with the flush side towards the working end of the wire so you have a nice edge to start with. And then we are going to mark the half point of this wire, which would be 2 inches. Grabbing the graduating bell making pliers, and we'll be using the 7mm mark. But first we are going to grab the flat nose pliers and we are going to place them on one side of that mark that we made, and then we're going to fold this metal in half. Just using your pressure of your fingers against the pliers so you have that bobby pin shape. And then we're going to close it up a little bit more with the pliers. And as you can see, I'm using the table and in this wonderful mat, so it won't mar it, to close that loop up as tight as possible. Then I'm going to bring in the sill bench block. And we are going to take the chasing hammer and we are going to flatten out this portion of the metal. Doesn't take hard wax to move, to move this metal. Copper's very soft. And I'm going to flip it. Give it a few more whacks here till I got it to where I want it, which is about right there. Doesn't take much. You don't have to flatten it too far, only probably about 1/8 of an inch up the pin there. All right, and then I'm going to move that out of the way. Take the bell making flat, oops, forgetting a step here. You're going to separate the two legs here. So you have what looks like a V. And then we are going to take these pliers and we're going to place that closed in between the barrels at the 7mm mark. And we're going to take and we're going to push that metal over the pliers. So you have something that looks like that. Then we're going to go to the other side. Place that closed in between the pliers again, and we're going to move the metal over the barrel of the pliers again. Holding it firmly like I am not. You want to hold it firmly though when you push that over. I'm trying to look at make sure I'm staying in view of the frame there. So you'll have something that looks like that now. You can also use your flat nose pliers to straighten up that center. So you kind of get more of an even heart. Or you can offset the heart if you like a more abstract heart. And then the toggle heart itself, I have kind of consistently made them about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch. It's usually a pretty good size for a toggle, closed loop toggle. So now, and you can use your fingers because like I said, this copper is super soft. So get the heart where you want it, get the shape you want, and then you're going to have one tail on the top side and one on the bottom. You're going to take that top side one and you're just going to take and fold it over the bottom one with your fingers. It doesn't take much. And you want to come out on the opposite side here so you can make your wrap. And I usually just use my fingers. So you'll have your heart such like that. You won't need all this wire, but it's always good to cut a little extra for moving it. Makes it easier for your fingers. So I'm going to cut off flesh side towards the working piece. And then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to close up this loop. And then this is where your file will come into. You can take and just to be extra cautious, kind of file away that bottom cut piece. Even though I flush cut it, there's still some burrs there. So you can get it to where it's comfortable because, you know, it's going to be against your skin. You want it to be comfortable. All right, so now you'll have a tail, which you won't need all of that. You'll only need about 1/2 inch to complete the loop at the end. So measure out your 1/2 inch and cut. I'm covering so that piece doesn't go flying. All right, so now you've got this. So we're going to do the loop at the end here. Going to close loop. So we're going to pick up these bell making pliers again. And you're going to loop away from the heart this way. Because you don't want to go this way because you want the resistance of going the opposite direction. So I go at the 2mm mark and I'm going to begin my loop, creating my loop here. And I will move the piece around where it's comfortable for me. And then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to go inside the loop with the chain nose pliers and give it a little bit of a kink. Then I'm going to come back with the round nose and close that loop up. So you have it So it looks like that. So that is the closed in portion. We have one more step we're going to take. We're going to bring back the bench block. And see how open that heart is right there? We're going to close it up with the chasing hammer. So we're going to push that heart up here, leaving off the wrap off the bench block, just the hearts on there. We're going to bring the chasing hammer in and we're going to flatten that down. And then I'm going to also flatten the sides here. And as you can see, I'm moving the heart to the side so I can actually hit the portion of the heart that I want, and I'll flip it over too. And I will do it there. And you can also take your flat nose pliers and straighten up this inside part because the metal's going to move as you're hammering it. And then I also hammer the coil, the wrap, and the loop. This does two things. It puts a faucet on there so it's a little bit shinier, and it also hardens the copper. So it's less likely to come apart. So now you'll have your finished portion of your toggle, your loop of the toggle. I'm going to set that to the side and we're going to work on the bar. So we're going to bring back the 16 gauge, starting off with cutting a flush end, straightening out. We're going to cut 3.5 inches for the bar. And we're going to mark the halfway point for this as well, which will be 2 1/4, no, 1/8. No, I'm totally off here. Where am I? There we go. All right. Might have to eyeball this. I got all. Okay, so looping pliers back. I'm getting sidetracked here. Bear with me, people. It's Sunday, and I have had a rough last week. I did not feel well, and I'm starting to feel better, thank goodness. I do not like being sick. So you're going to place the bell-making pliers, the piece of metal in between, at the 3mm mark. So we're going to make a 3mm loop. So you're going to use your fingers to push one tail to one side, and then the other tail to the opposite side. So they're crossed now. And slide it off, and you'll have your little loop there with your two tails. And you're going to bring in your bench block again and your chasing hammer, and you're going to flatten this, and it's going to be pretty flat. I'll bring in one of the, you're going to give it some flattening, really good strokes because you want it to be flat and connected. So here we go. You're going to hold it and you're going to start. And then you're going to flip again. So you'll have something that looks like that. And you're going to come in with your flat nose pliers. And you're going to bring those bars down because as you hammer the metal, it moves. So you'll reform it so it looks more like a bar. All right. Now, this is the important part. You're going to bring back your heart portion of the toggle. And this is how you're going to get the bar measurement. So you're going to take the widest portion of the heart and you're going to slip the bar in and push it down against the widest part of the heart, and then you're going to take and put the other portion, the straight portion, up, and then you're going to cut it a few millimeters past. And that's where you're going to get your measurement. And then you're going to measure what you just cut, which is approximately a 1/2 inch. So you'll cut this one, the other side, at a 1/2 inch. So you'll have your bar. And then we're going to take the bench block back in with a chasing hammer, and we're going to paddle out each end. You do not have to do this if you do not want to, but I like the look of it, so I will. You can leave it as is and just take the burrs off with the file and leave the rounded in. Paddle them out evenly. So it looks like that. So there is your heart toggle clasp. Okay, we're going to set this aside. That's one of the findings that we're going to make today. The second is going to be a heart link, smaller. This one will be used, sorry, I'm trying to sort out here, for the earrings, or you could use it to construct a bracelet, which I will show you how that's done as well. This one is about 3/4 of an inch compared to the 1 inch one for the toggle. So you can see the size difference. You could use this one as well for a bracelet if you wanted a bigger. Total, up to you. Options are endless. I also did where I made this heart here, but instead of making the loop at the end, I just simply made a tight coil and snipped off the remainder in and filed it so it was smooth, so you could use it like a link without the bottom loop if you chose, if you like that, or as a pendant, a small pendant, or a larger pendant, doing the same with that. So there's like endless options. I mean, go wild with your creativity. That's how some of the best things come to life, is being able to venture out of the box and create your own designs. This is just, a starting point. Think of it as a starting point. Okay, so now we're going to move on to that smaller heart, which only just requires a smaller or a shorter length of metal. So we're going to start off with a flush cut. So instead of a 4-inch piece of 16 gauge metal, we're going to do a 3.5. So it's literally a 1/2 inch difference. And the steps are all the same. But I will show you how to do it again. So, and repetition's actually really good when we're learning. So, I know I have to do things with, myself to learn. All right, so we mark the middle point, and then we're going to take, and you can eyeball this. You don't have to mark it. Usually I don't, but I'm trying to be better about that since these are tutorials. And then we're going to fold it again using just the pressure of our fingers against the pliers into that kind of bobby pin shape. And I like to kind of use my fingers as much as possible because it Fingers are great because they don't mar the metal unnecessarily. And then you just take your flat nose and close that up a little bit more with. Then we're going to bring in the bench block again, and we're going to flatten out that closed in. And the reason I flip the metal like I do, I give it a few whacks with the hammer and then flip it, is to keep it even. And also because the metal, like when you're hammering, it'll tend to, if you hammer one side, the metal just curl up on you. So if you learn to flip it, it kind of lessens that effect from one side to the other. Okay, and like before, we're going to take the two ends and we're going to separate them into a V. So we're beginning that center portion of the heart. Now, instead of the 7mm, we're going to use the 5 on this one. And we're going to place the closed end of the wire up against the 5. And we're going to push with our fingers around the barrel. I'm going to flip it around, and we're going to do the same with the other side. And see, if you get it off balance like that, don't worry. You can move it. It's the beauty of metal. It moves. You can manipulate it. It's my favorite part about it. Okay, and then you're going to work those tails until you get the size of the heart that is desired, which is about right there. And then you're going to use your fingers on the top set wire to fold over the bottom one to start your wrap. You got your wrap. You won't need all of this. I always tend to cut a little bit more material, especially with copper. It's silver I'm a little bit more precise with because it's expensive. But with copper, you can kind of have a little bit more cushion in order to work with, so it makes it a little easier for you. And then I'm going to use the chain nose pliers to close that loop up. You have your smaller heart. Use my flat nose to bring in that centerpiece a little bit so it's more even. And then I'm going to cut this tail off again at approximately 1/2 inch. You see me sometimes marking and sometimes not. Well, I'm not a measurer, so I'm still trying to get a better habit of it. A lot of times I'll just put the piece up to the ruler and cut it from there. And cover so the piece doesn't go flying. Now, it is a good idea to get in the habit of wearing safety glasses. I have to wear glasses, so they're always on. So I don't have to worry about it as much, but definitely. But it's a really good habit to cover the metal when you're cutting, because those pieces, they can go flying at quite a forceful way that could cause some serious damage, especially to an eyeball. So I'm going to now use my bell or looping pliers, bell making pliers to close off this end. And I usually turn because it's more comfortable for me. And then I'm going to bring in my chain nose and give this inside, oops, watch, a little bit of a kink so I can finish the loop. And close it up. I'm going to confess I am not the best looper. I know some people are so good at it. I'm very jealous of that, but I have to work at it. It's something I have to work at. So there you have your heart and your loop. And you're going to do the same exact thing with the chasing hammer as you did with the larger one. Flatten that out. Doesn't take a lot of force. And then use the side of the bench block to flatten the crest of the heart. Flip it over and do the same thing. Careful not to hit your fingers. This does, like I said, two things. It hardens the copper so it retains its form, and it also gives it those kind of faucets thin texture. You can liver sulfur this, so it's antiqued if you want. Or you can leave it as is. So there is how you make the smaller heart versus the heart toggle. Now the fun part begins, where I'm going to show you how you can use them. So we're going to put together these earrings here. Over there. So make these earrings. One's being difficult. And these earrings were constructed with the ear wire, the smaller heart connector, jump ring, and a crystal. That is it. So 2 crystals, 2 ear wires, 2 of the smaller heart connectors, and we're going to bring in the 20 gauge copper, dead soft copper wire, because that's what goes through these crystals. So you got to keep that in mind when you are deciding on what findings to put your jewelry together with. And that's why it's kind of nice to know you can make your own jump rings, because you can do that on the fly. And if you don't have a 20 gauge jump ring that you want to use, or you can make one really quick. So I'll just leave the spool. I'll work with the spool, and I'm going to grab these bell making pliers, and we're going to do a 6 millimeter jump ring. So you're going to grab the wire between the 2 barrels at the 6 millimeter mark, and you're going to just begin wrapping. And as you're wrapping, you're pushing the metal to the side and creating your coil. So you have a little coil like that. I'm going to snip it off. Minimal waste too, which is always nice. With your flush cutters, you're going to snip it off. You want to separate these coils a little bit for the cutting. And you want to make sure that you're cutting with the flush side. So this one's flush. So you're going to flip the flush cutters over and cut the next ring. There's one jump ring. And then you're going to flip the cutters again and cut a flush in on there. And then flip them again. So you're cutting another flush side. Drop that. We only need 2, so I'll put that over there. All right, so now you have your jump rings. Now, this is 20 gauge soft copper wire. It's going to need to be hardened because these jump rings will deform quite easily. So I'm going to close them up just with my fingers, because you can. They're that soft. And if they do come out of shape, you can put them back on the bell making pliers and just squeeze around them, and they will go back into shape. And we're going to harden them a little bit before we... So we're going to place them, and this is where this little hockey puck, vinyl hockey puck comes in it, and the mallet. You can use just the mallet on them like that, but as you can see, you'll want to do them one at a time. And then flip. If you don't have one of these, it's not really necessary. Don't worry if they're coming apart a little bit. We can fix that. So by doing that, it hardens it. and you can feel it with your fingers. Test it out so you get the you know, the feeling, you know, how that it's been hardened. Before, I mean, I could just take this one in easily. This one has a little resistance now to it. And if you need, you know, and as you work it, it's going to get harder. So you want to make sure when you're opening and closing a jump ring, you're going side to side, not pulling apart. Okay, so we hardened those a little bit. So now we're going to take the ear wire. We're going to open up the loop with either the chain nose or flat nose, and we're going to place a heart inside, directly inside, and we're going to close that up. So you're going to have that. And then you're going to take one of the jump rings we just hardened, and you're going to open them up. And you're going to place the crystal. These are front to back drilled crystals. I'm going to go through it, and you're going to attach it to the closed loop. Use my flat nose here now, and combination with the chain nose to close this jump ring up. And if it's open a little bit, you work it in by pushing inward with both sides, and then it'll close up nicely for you. And then there is one earring complete. I'll set that to the side and do the second one. Grab the ear wire, open up the loop, slide the small heart connector in there, close that loop up, side to side, don't pull it apart, weakens the metal and it's not a good connection. That hardens it up too, hardens the wire. Okay, we're going to thread the crystal on the jump ring, the 6mm jump ring, and then through the closed connection of the heart, and we're going to close the jump ring up. Just like so. And so now you have your two earrings. And be mindful when you're doing the construction of the earrings, putting them together. Make sure your loop are facing the same way. So the front side of the loop with the two coils is there, and then the back side with the raw edge is on the back. It looks nicer that way. So now you'll have a pair of earrings. You can oxidize these, but do it before you put the crystals on. You can do them, you can slip those on after you oxidize and polish them up. You can also add more texture to the hearts if you choose, with a variety of different hammers or whatever. Or you can leave them as is. They look nice either way. They will naturally oxidize over time anyway. Copper does, and it does pretty rapidly. So those are the earrings. They're very simple, easy, cute, good weight, not too heavy. Not I think they're a really nice gift to give somebody, or even actually for a farmer's market, for a if you're doing any Valentines or close to before. Great little earring to put together for selling. Let's slide those over there. Now I'm going to show you a bracelet that was constructed using the elements we just made. Now this is just a copper toggle that I did not use the bigger copper toggle, which you can. I just simply constructed this bracelet with the smaller hearts, the 3/4. And then before I closed them off, I actually threaded the 6/0 seed beads on to half of the hearts. This constructed bracelet is 7 inches. And it consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 3/4 inch hearts. And these are jump rings made out of the 16 gauge copper wire. All of this is 16 gauge dead soft copper wire. And I used, these are 6mm sure they're 6mm. I better double check myself. I want to give you guys the wrong information. Yeah, 6mm, 16 gauge jump rings. You can do the same thing, hardening them with the bench block and the mallet. You can also use your chasing hammer. These are pretty these are harder because it's 16 gauge to move. So there, you don't really need to harden them, but you can. If you want, you can also flatten them with the metal chasing hammer so they're a flat and not a rounded jump ring. There's all kinds of things you can do with this, and you can also not put the seed beads on there if you choose and just make it with the copper hearts and not. And then what I did was I just made the bar specific to the 3/4 inch heart. I would not go any smaller than that for the actual clasp part of it because it'd be really fiddly to get on smaller than that. But this one actually works really nicely. And I also, to give yourself room at the end where the bar is attached, you should put at least 2 jump rings. It makes it much easier to go in and out of the closed portion of the heart. You can, and it also is a great way to extend or get the length of the bracelet you want. If one heart is either going to make it too long, so you can do it that way. You can make up the difference with the jump rings. But it's a really cute bracelet to wear. You can, like I said, leave the beads on or off, put different beads on there as long as they'll go through the 16 gauge wire. I should have actually, let me see, where's my calipers here? 16 gauge is not inches, millimeters here, is basically 1.2 millimeters, 1.1, 1.2 millimeters in diameter. So you'll need a bead, a hole that has at least a 1.23 millimeter hole to be able to pass through the 16 gauge copper wire. But yes, you can do a multitude of things with those simple components. And you can make up a bunch in order to have around for constructing any kind of, and this one actually would make a really nice necklace toggle as well because it's a little bit bigger. And that's why I went with the wrist one, a little bit more dainty of a closure. But as you can see, you can use either one as the closure of a toggle. The 3/4 inch heart or the 1 inch heart, and you size up the bar according to the heart that you're using, and it'll vary because they're handmade, but super easy to do, fun project. And you'll have to let me know if there's any other combinations that you were able to do with these components that we have made here today. So I hope this has been helpful and you can add it to your jewelry making resume. But thank you guys for tuning in, and if you can like this video, that would help me greatly to know that, or dislike if it's not something that you're interested. I guess it doesn't matter. Just great feedback. I'm enjoying the comments immensely, so I appreciate that. I have a lineup of things that I will be putting into tutorials. I'll probably be doing a necklace next because I haven't done one of those yet. Really pretty necklace with a variety of different combinations as well. Some more earrings and bracelets, of course. I'm not an expert on wire wrapping. There are some amazing wire wrappers out there, but I do enjoy working with metal. I'm kind of more of a traditional metalsmith, but I definitely enjoy learning all kinds of different techniques, and I do enjoy sharing what I've learned over the years that I've been making. Decades. I don't want to say that, but yeah. And then this is off the subject of jewelry making, but it does have something to do. I know, as you can tell, my hands are definitely rough because I'm always messing with metal or gardening or something. And I wanted to give another shout out to a company here locally in Tennessee that makes the most amazing hand repair cream. My husband actually found this for me, and it smells wonderful. It works wonders. I do not use it when I'm, you don't want to put lotion on while you're working with your your jewelry and stuff and creating, because it'll get on the metal and stuff. But I do this every night. I put this on my hands every night. I am not sponsored. I just love it. It smells divine. But it's the Naked Bee Serious Hand Repair Cream. They sell it here in Tennessee locally. Get up there so you can see like us on Facebook. They're on Facebook. They have their own site, but they're amazing. Amazing company. I love supporting local companies, small businesses, and man, when they have amazing product like this one, it's not hard to support something this great. But this is wonderful for your hands after you're done making jewelry, especially when you get into working with metal and stuff, and it can really tear up your hands. So I love that stuff. I have like it all over the house. But that was just my little plug there. Like I said, it's not a sponsored anything. It's just I feel like I need to share it because it's an amazing product. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I look forward to seeing more comments. And please like and subscribe if you are enjoying the content, and I will continue to put it up there for you to enjoy. So until next time, be safe.